to Councilman Nathan Schmidt for the invocation. Remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I ask that we all observe a moment of silence to reflect on the business here tonight. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. There are no proclamations this evening, and I don't believe there are any presentations. Is that correct? Correct. So we will proceed with the roll call.
Mayor Wolgast.
Here.
Council members Hiller.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Ortiz.
Here.
Everhart.
Here.
De La Isla. Manspeaker. Schwartz.
Here.
Schmidt. And Harmon.
Thank you. And council members, there will be two executive sessions. The first one will be before item 5F, which is at the bottom of the second page or the third page of the agenda. And the second executive session will be at the conclusion of the meeting. So if you will make a note to be aware of those. I don't believe there are any additions to the agenda this evening, so we will proceed with the consent agenda, if the clerk would read.
A is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Darrell Kraft to the Downtown Business Improvement District Advisory Board for a term ending June 30, 2016. B is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Ken Scott to the Downtown Business Improvement District Advisory Board for a term ending June 30, 2016. C is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Stephen Smith to the Downtown Business Improvement District Advisory Board for a term ending June 30, 2016. D is a board appointment recommending the appointment of Ryan Freed to the Topeka Shawnee County Public Library Board of Trustees for an unexpired term ending April 30, 2015. E is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Rodney Miller to the Topeka Metropolitan Transit Authority for a term ending June 30, 2018. F is a board appointment recommending the reappointment of Beverly Hall to the Topeka Metropolitan Transit Authority for a term ending June 30, 2018. G is a resolution introduced by Councilmember Karen Hiller granting Linda Monroe an exception to the provisions of City of Topeka Code Section 945-150 at SEEK concerning noise prohibitions. H is a resolution introduced by Councilmember Karen Hiller granting Kyle Moden an exception to the provisions of City of Topeka Code Section 945-150 at SEEK concerning noise prohibitions. I is a resolution introduced by Councilmember T.J. Brown granting Fiesta Mexicana an exception to the provisions of City of Topeka Code Section 945-150 at SEEK concerning noise prohibitions. J is a resolution introduced by Councilmember T.J. Brown granting Fiesta Mexicana an exception to the provisions of City of Topeka Code Section 945-150 at SEEK concerning noise prohibitions. K is a resolution introduced by Councilmember T.J. Brown granting Chris Martinez an exception to the provisions of City of Topeka Code Section 945-150 at SEEK concerning noise prohibitions. L is a resolution introduced by Councilmember Chad Manspeaker granting the Loft of College Hill an exception to the provisions of City of Topeka Code Section 945-150 at SEEK concerning noise prohibitions. M are minutes of the regular meeting of June 10th, 2014, and in our applications, there's a list of applications before you for approval for open after midnight. Two for the car wash located at 1814 Southwest 10th Avenue and 720 Southwest Gage Boulevard.
Thank you. Council members, that is the consent agenda. What is your pleasure? Mr. Harmon?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd move approval of the consent agenda as read.
Okay, it has been moved by Mr. Harmon. Mr. Schmidt seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes. Opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 having voted yes, the consent agenda is approved as read. We will go to action items. The first is a resolution for First Friday art events.
A is a resolution introduced by City Manager Jim Colson authorizing the serving of complimentary alcohol liquor and cereal malt beverage for the First Friday Art Walk event sponsored by Arts Connect Incorporated.
Thank you. And I erred. At the end of the consent agenda, I introduced the people who have been appointed. We just gave approval for, and I moved on so quickly I forgot to do that. If I could, council members, I would like to introduce, we have the first three appointees to the Downtown Business Advisory Board, and Ken Scott is here. Ken, if you would stand, please. Thank you. We have the appointment to the Shawnee County, Topeka Shawnee County Public Library is filling the vacancy of Robert Harder. He could not be here tonight. He is the original appointee of Ryan Freed. And then to the Topeka Metropolitan Transit Authority, we have Rodney Miller, if you would stand, who has been the president several years, and at the recent meeting, Beverly Hill was elected. Beverly Hall, if you would stand, please. Thank you all for your service to the community. Thank you. Now we're on 5A, and we've had the resolution read, so we'll proceed. Mr. City Manager, to the background.
Thank you. Actually, I'll turn this over to Mr. Sablat, Mr. Mayor.
This resolution, if I may.
Certainly,
Mayor.
go ahead.
Thank you. This resolution would allow the First Fridays organization to serve alcohol as a nonprofit organization pursuant to KSA 41-104. This was originally approved last August, and the resolution will end this August, so they're asking for another year extension.
Okay, so we passed this last year, in a sense, for 1 year, and this is, in a sense, resubmitting and for approval for another year. Are there questions for Mr. Sablet? Ms. Ortiz?
Motion to approve the resolution.
Okay.
Second.
Ms. Delisla seconds. We have a motion to approve. We have two people who have signed to speak on this. The first is, I will recognize now, Sarah Fazell.
Hi everyone, I am Sarah Fazell, the Executive Director of Arts Connect, and we are the sponsoring organization of the First Friday Art Walk, and therefore the nonprofit who requests this ordinance, I believe, to be passed. And this is, as has been stated, a continuance of something that we did last year, and has been done through the course of the year with no issues or concerns that I've been made aware of. So I'm here to answer questions if you have any.
Are there questions for Ms. Fazell? Mrs. Schmidt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mrs. Schwartz?
It's okay. Sarah, does this allows businesses to sell, or what does it allow?
This allows business owners to serve alcohol for free on their own property. So it does not address any public consumption issues, and it doesn't address any age. Obviously, other liquor laws, it doesn't supersede any of them.
Thank you.
Are there other questions for Ms. Fazell? Seeing none, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.
The second person is Francis Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. I'm afraid I was a little misunderstand. I misunderstood the paper a little bit. I thought someone told me, and I couldn't download the paper on my iPad today, yesterday's paper, that you were wanting to sell at this, and so I'm coming at from a little bit poor understanding, I think. I understand that they have been doing it complimentary, and that's a little bit different issue than I thought prior to coming tonight. However, that doesn't keep this WCTU lady that hates alcohol from speaking against this, because you do not need to know what all the problems alcohol causes, whether it's a little bit or your example of drinking the wine at the art walk in front of your kids and other people. Alcohol's a controlled substance. The Alcohol Beverage Control Board probably should be even consulted on this, and maybe you have. But if you haven't, you probably should consult the Alcohol Beverage Control Board to see what they have to say about this situation. I don't know what liabilities are incurred in this, and we kind of went through that, I think, when you wanted to serve it in the parking garage a couple of years ago. But alcohol is a controlled substance, and it causes a lot of devastation, and I wish that, and I would like to see no votes on this proposal. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. And to clarify, it is in the ordinance that authorization is given to serve complimentary
Yes.
alcoholic liquor or serve malt beverages. So it is complimentary. and not
Yeah,
for
thank you.
sale.
I appreciate that clarification, and I'm sorry I didn't know it
Okay.
before I came.
That's fine. Thank you. We have a motion and second before us. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor vote yes. Those opposed vote no. I vote yes.
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, the resolution is passed. We go to item 5B, resolution on the, for a parking waiver.
B is a resolution introduced by Councilmember T.J. Brown granting a waiver to the provisions of City of Topeka Municipal Code Section 106120 relating to parking on unimproved surfaces.
Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a standard waiver that Our Lady Guadalupe and the festival requests every year. To my knowledge, there have been no problems in this area, so thank you.
Would you want to move to?
I move, I do,
Approve.
to have it
All right.
approved,
Is there a
please.
second? Mrs. Hiller seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 having voted yes, the resolution is approved. Item 5C, special event.
C is a resolution introduced by Councilmember T.J. Brown approving a special event known as Our Lady of Guadalupe Fiesta Mexicana.
Mr. Brown.
Mr. Mayor, again, this is the standard permit that the Our Lady Guadalupe and the festival request every year, and I would move for approval of it. And if I might take a moment, I just wanted to mention that the entire organizing committee is here tonight, and I wanted to thank them for being here.
Would the organizing committee stand for the Mexican fiesta? Thank you for being here. Is there a second to this motion? Mrs. Ortiz seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
Your vote, Mayor.
I vote yes.
We have 9 yes.
9 having voted yes, the resolution is approved. Item 5D, an ordinance on expenditures.
D is an ordinance introduced by City Manager Jim Colson allowing and approving city expenditures for the period of April 26th through May 30, 2014, and enumerating said expenditures therein.
Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Approval of expenditures in the amount of $17,122,327.82. Like we asked for approval of that ordinance.
Mrs. Ortiz. It's been moved to approve. Councilman Schmidt seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
Ms. Ortiz? We have 8 yes.
8 having voted yes, the expenditures are approved. Item 5E, a zoning ordinance.
E is an ordinance introduced by City Manager Jim Colson amending the district map referred to and made a part of the zoning ordinances by section 1850050 of the Topeka Municipal Code by providing for certain changes in zoning on property located at 3337 Northwest Lower Silver Lake Road and the west half of the property at 3311 Northwest Lower Silver Lake Road from R1 Single Family Dwelling District with a special use permit for a vegetable market all to I1 Light Industrial District.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is a request that was brought to this body previously. It was remanded back to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission is returning it with their recommendation. I would like to ask Mr. Fiander, Planning Director, to approach and to provide information and answer any questions that you may have prior to action.
Mr. Fiander.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Yeah, as mentioned here, this was before you, it was remanded back to the Planning Commission. Your instructions when it went back was for them to consider a PUD option, which would require screening for any outside storage on the property. The screening would be a a 6-foot privacy fence on all sides of the property. It's a triangular shaped property, if you recall. Planning Commission did consider the option. They concurred with their original option, or original recommendation of I-1 light industrial. And while there was a show of support for higher design standards in general, as they expressed, the main reason for this recommendation not to consider the PUD option in their mind was more of an equity issue. They felt that the screening standard should be applied uniformly to any situation, not just maybe in this case. They did note that other industrial property in the area had outside storage that would not be screened. But to that end, Planning Commission and staff are working together on a code change to make this uniform, to make a screening provision for open storage in industrial areas next to residential to be applied uniformly. So we will bring that before you here later this summer when we bring forth the zoning code matrix update that we are doing. As an interim policy, I think we would support applying this screening provision as appropriate in appropriate situations until we can bring that code change to you. I think so. This is sort of a bridge to get to that code change where we can apply uniformly. So, in tonight, you have the option of either adopting the Planning Commission recommendation of I-1. There's a PUD option as well, ordinance, that was presented to them. You have that option. That's in your packet. And, or you make another amendment as you wish. But majority vote, I believe, is all that you need. So I'll stand for any questions at this point.
Oh, what is the recommendation?
So
What is your recommendation from the Planning Commission?
Well, the Planning Commission's recommendation back to you was I-1 light industrial. We would recommend as an interim policy that you do the PUD option while we get that code changed and bring that to you later this summer. So we are supportive of a PUD option for the screening.
Okay, I guess I'm concerned here. We have a recommendation from the Planning Commission. This is a zoning issue. And so again, we have the 4 options that we can do. We can approve it, or we can disapprove it, or we can send it back with a reason for that, or we can amend it. We can amend the proposal. And is that what Mr. Finder is suggesting, is that we amend the proposal?
I'm stating that you have those options that we presented to the Planning Commission. You have the same options.
Okay, or substitute motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Council members, Mr. Brown?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would, I've spoken with Mr. Finder, I've been by the property, I've talked to the NIA West. I think the PUD option in advance of the changes that are anticipated is the right way to go with this, and I'd like to introduce that as a substitute motion at this time.
We do not have a motion on the floor, so what if you can hold it with that, and then
Okay.
are there other questions for Mr. Finder? Mr. Schmidt?
Yeah. Let me turn my microphone on. I agree with that. The sheet of paper that I just passed around to all of you was a modified version. When this came up previously, and we remanded it back to the Planning Commission, if you remember back to that discussion, they offered as an alternative the PUD designation over the light industrial designation, which I thought was more appropriate to the needs that were expressed by the community and still quite reasonable for the property owner. So I worked with planning to come up with an idea of how we could do this. Planning is in the process of introducing upgraded standards that they plan to bring before us in the very near future. that would cause this to be unnecessary, but at this point, it is necessary. I understand the argument that was made from the planning department over uniformity and applying those aspects of the code uniformly. What I proposed here, which would add, if you look under section 2, all equipment and vehicles shall be enclosed within the building or screened from public view by a 6-foot privacy fence along northwest Lower Silver Lake Road, the east property line, and the south property line, would alleviate the concerns of the neighborhood association that opposed this, and would provide the best bridge option until planning is able to fully implement the desired changes, so we wouldn't have to worry about retroactively going back and enforcing this. So while this is probably not the appropriate time, I believe I probably need to make a motion to approve as submitted first, and then
Yes.
TJ can introduce, this is his district, he's free to introduce this substitute motion at that point. So I would make a motion to approve.
Okay, Mr. Schmidt is moving to approve the ordinance, the zoning ordinance as has been, was read. Is there a second?
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
If I'm understanding correctly, if we approve the ordinance as introduced, we are approving the I-1 light industrial designation.
We put the ordinance before us,
Okay,
and then your substitute motion is appropriate.
okay, all right, thank you.
Yes. So at least less seconds, so we have a motion and second to approve the ordinance.
And
Yes.
if I can
Mr.
clarify,
Sublette?
I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I can clarify, and perhaps Mr. Feinender could weigh in. As I read the ordinance that's in front of you, the recommendation is to PUD plan unit development,
Correct.
correct? Okay, so, and this is where I need Mr. Feinender to weigh in. The recommendation is PUD, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's,
Well,
Planning Commission's was not.
What, isn't the motion? I'll wait till they're finished. I think the motion should be to approve the recommendation from the planning commission.
yes. I just wanted to clarify what the
Okay,
ordinance was saying in
so-
front of us. The recommendation was the
The motion to approve this ordinance is the motion, or is the recommendation from the planning commission?
Correct. This proposal would then be
Yes, but that's,
as a
okay.
substitute.
We have an ordinance, we have a motion and seconding to approve the planning commission recommendation. And then we will recognize Mr. Brown for a substitute motion.
I would, at this time, like to make a substitute motion, and I would also like to thank the Planning Commission for all of their hard work and for considering this issue twice. This is in no way a reflection on the work of that commission. It's simply trying to address those issues of fairness and equity while looking towards the future of that area of the district.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Mr.
Second.
Schmidt seconds. So we're on discussion on the substitute motion, that you have a copy there in front of you, and which, Mr. Schmidt, gave an introduction of. Is there any questions, Mr. Harmon?
Thank you, Your Honor. In the materials attached to our packet, I believe on the PUD, in the subject to language, the last sentence is, "No material shall be stacked higher than the fence." And then in the document that Councilmember Schmidt handed out, that sentence is deleted. So I guess, Mr. Brown, the question is, in your substitute motion, what's the status of this line, "No material shall be stacked higher than the fence"? Is it included or is it not?
My understanding, and you're correct, it's not in there, is, would you like to address that?
Mr.
I
Schmidt?
defer to Mr. Schmidt.
I would be happy to address that. I discussed this with planning before. Classifying this as a PUD would come with the restriction that none of the storage unit, or none of the anything that's stored there would not be able to exceed 6 feet. So if they, the example that I used with Mr. Fyander was that you couldn't park a tractor in there. That wasn't necessarily the intention of what I was looking for. My point was to create the screening, so that at least from the road, you know, we don't have a junkyard sitting there or a lot full of, you know, things that aren't pleasant to look at. I felt that the restriction of saying 6 foot for storage in an unenclosed area would be too restrictive for what this is, so I asked that be stricken from the PUD ordinance, and that's the substitute that I presented today. So that's the reason for that.
A question, which sides would there be a fence? On all 3 sides?
Yes.
Well, I know I'm trying to find it in the planning commission, it was discussed that a fence would be, apparently it slopes down, so a fence would be meaningful on the back side next to the railroad tracks, because it's sloping down, you'd be able to see over the fence and would be meaningless. But and also in the minutes of the planning commission, several people have said how there is farm equipment all along Lower Silver Lake Road, because it is a farming area. And there is a John Deere dealership and others along it, so I'm just pointing out, I read through all the minutes. Mr. Lackey said there's a problem with screening this small property when there are less attractive properties to the west without screening. There are other areas that have 20 to 30 times the amount of space with outside storage that's totally not screened. So my concern is we're putting a burden on this particular property owner that none of the other people along Lower Silver Lake have to honor. And I believe the neighbors testified in favor of the original ordinance. So I'm just stating that in a sense as perhaps from on the basis of where the planning commission was coming from on their recommendations. Yeah, Mr. Schwartz.
I was just correct. The neighborhood association testified against the original.
Yes, I understand.
They testified for the PUD, which would require the screening and the 6 foot limit. So they were opposed to the original ordinance,
Yes.
not in favor of it.
I understand, but the neighbors who live out there, I don't know how many of the NIA members live in the area. I was the neighbors who live next door, they were in favor of the original proposal. Mrs. Hiller?
Bill, could you put the zoning map up again, please? I too really appreciate the input that people gave, but if you look at this map, hopefully everybody went up there and drove it. We all have, I know, but I made myself go up again. That is R1, 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 R1. And for those of us that have either been in the community or been up here, we've been steadily working to clean up North Topeka for the last 40 years. And so I personally have a real problem going with the bottom line of you know, like there's some farm equipment right across the street. It's probably not supposed to be there. It's all for sale and it's sitting there. There's stuff on this property that in my district code writes up all the time. Junky, inoperable vehicles, stuff full of boxes and papers, and it's just sitting there. It looks terrible. And we did get the letter from the neighborhood association. I visited with some people that live in that area along the way. You know, right now it's mixed, but if you go in, even on the industrial areas to the west, there are a couple that have, and they're kind of off this map, there are a few of them that have items out near the road, but for the most part, that industrial park and each of those companies are very neat and tidy, and it has been steadily improving along Silver Lake Road. I am really excited, Bill, to hear that you're working on upgrading the zoning, but even then, I have a problem with, I understand that this is a kind of a funky little corner, but having I-1 at all at this point on this run, and so the PUD at least manages that. Again, If I understand correctly, you are also initiating with at least a committee of the Planning Commission an update of our overall long-range land use plan as well. Is that right, Bill?
Correct. We are.
Is there a chance that, I mean, we know that we see all R1 on this, pretty much what we're looking at now as we start to head east, but that there is some mixed, at least agricultural use and a fire station, but still mostly houses all the way into Taylor from there. Is it possible that, I know that you, I understand from a conversation that we had that you are considering some focus work on a couple of areas that might need it in the city when you do that long-range plan, and just kind of across the table, if we're at a point where the people that farmed along Silver Lake Road and had the truck stands are beginning to consider selling off those residential properties and those long-time grandfathered truck farm, produce stands, I wondered if it might be, I looked on your website, and the North Topeka downtown and the North Topeka East area have full comprehensive neighborhood plans, but I wondered if it might be a good time to do a long-range Silver Lake corridor plan just to protect the green and the beauty and the homes that are there and the neighborhoods that are adjacent to it.
If I may, our current land use plan for the city looks at this area for industrial and west of Furman. So west of Furman to Highway 75, you have an industrial employment type area in the future. East of Furman, low density, as you know, agricultural uses as well are included in that. So this is right at this is right on the edge. You have to
Right.
draw a line somewhere, and when
Right.
you get down to zoning cases, that's why you can't, the plans are broad brush, and then when you drill down into a specific property, how do you draw that line and transition? We're right at that point. So you're right. You're at the edge of going into the gateway to this low density residential agricultural character.
Just hope then, I appreciate your sensitivity to that. I know that the owner, from reading the minutes, was flexible about what we did with the zoning, and we're investing millions of dollars in the Sunflower Soccer Complex just west of there. We're gonna have lots, hopefully thousands and thousands of people coming off US 75 and visiting there. We have no-toe growing, and so great anticipations that people, when they're in between soccer games, or get on Silver Lake Road and head into town. And we want it to look appealing so that they keep going and go to No-Toe and go to the antique shops in downtown. And so I'm sensitive to that. I appreciate the work that you did on the ordinance, both of you, and I will certainly support the PUD approach. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, are there other comments or discussion? Mr. Harmon?
Mayor, I apologize for this. I still don't have an answer to my question. Does the substitute motion include that sentence, no material shall higher than the fence? Does it include or doesn't? I think we need to know.
No, it does not, Mr.
It does
Harmon.
not. Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry.
Thank you.
It's okay.
Got that taken care of. Any other discussion or questions? Mrs. Hiller?
A clarification about that. When I saw that you had eliminated it, I thought maybe you thought it was redundant. Maybe this is a legal question or a planning question. When this says, all equipment and vehicles shall be enclosed within the building or screened from public view, does that mean they shouldn't be sticking up over the top of the fence anyway? Is that, if I may ask?
Yes. Mr. Fine.
Sure, we have we mirrored what we do with our landscape code when we have an industrial property next to a residential property. We require a residential buffer. The reason we don't automatically require that here because there's no building being built. So in a open storage situation, we're applying the same standard. We do not limit the height of a building to no more than above the 6-foot fence. So we're not going to limit in the storage to no more than 6 foot of the height of the fence. Public view, driving, walking, yeah, I mean, I think that was that's why we added a 6 foot fence, because the question would be, well, what is screening? What does that mean?
So really, that last sentence wasn't necessary.
Correct.
Thank you. And I personally, if they can't figure it out, I don't have a problem with nobody doing any outside storage right there, and either having, you know, vacant land or building a garage and keeping things inside. So I'm very fine with that. Thank you.
Okay, is there other discussion? We have before us the substitute motion that you received a copy of. All those in favor of the substitute motion, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 having voted yes, the substitute motion is passed. Completes the item on the ordinance. At this point, we have a request for an executive session. The attorney, if you would like to give us the background for that and how we will proceed.
Yes, I would request that we're going to executive session to include the elected officials, the city manager, Mr. Gerber, Mr. Kaufman, and myself to discuss potential litigation for approximately 15 minutes. Or, I'm sorry, not approximately, for 15 minutes.
For 15 minutes. Is there, so moved, Ms. Hiller moves, Ms. Schwartz seconds. Discussion, all those in favor vote yes, opposed vote no.
We have 8 yes.
8 yes. So we will proceed when we have,
6
so,
votes.
folks, if you would please leave the room. We're going to go into an executive session. So it will be in approximately 15 minutes.
That's okay. I haven't read my whole Robert's Rules of Order yet, that's the problem.
They won't